Over the years, Indiana has produced many famous people. From musicians, movie stars, and the notorious. They have put Indiana on the map. Some are even buried here. You can stop by and pay your respects. If that's something you like to do, you are in luck. From the top to the bottom of the state, there are many celebrity graves to visit. How about we take a long ride to see a few and learn some stories along the way? Let's hit the road. Starting at South Bend, Indiana, we find the grave of Regis Philbin. From 1955 to 2020, he was all over the entertainment industry. In fact, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as having logged the most hours on American television. He is remembered for Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, and later Live with Regis and Kelly. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with his famous phrase, "Is that your final answer?" As a proud alumni, he's buried on the Notre Dame campus. It's a very modest grave, with only his name and dates. People drop by to pay their respects. They leave things, and you'll see that at the other places we visit. At a country cemetery at Dayton, Indiana, is the grave of Shannon Hoon. He was the lead singer of Blind Melon, a rock band from LA. One of their biggest hits was No Rain. And though he died in 1995, I hear that song on the radio, and it sends me way back. Maybe you have a song like that too. It's a simple, unpretentious grave. For a fact, he died way too young, but he's never been forgotten. The most famous person to ever live in Peru, Indiana, was songwriter Cole Porter. He's so famous that the Miami County Museum has nearly an entire floor dedicated to just him. Lots and lots of memorabilia. They even have his car. He had a series of hit songs from the 1920s through the 1950s for both movies and Broadway, making him incredibly wealthy. One of his biggest hits was Anything Goes. It was featured in the movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And here's a fun fact, most of the lyrics were in Mandarin, except for the words, "Anything Goes." True story. Cole Porter's grave is at Peru, Indiana. The signs will tell you where it is. His music and plays have long outlived him, still being sung across America and the world every day. By far, one of the most famous people to hail from Indiana was actor James Dean. He's buried at Fairmount, Indiana. With his t-shirt, jeans, and short coat, he left a lasting impression on American culture. He starred in classic movies such as East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and giant. Ironically, for all his fame, his career only lasted 5 years. His life tragically ended in a car accident. His humble grave is still visited by thousands each year. Some leave coins, some leave toys, or even books. So many come to Fairmount, wanting to stand close to an icon. When I was in grade school, I heard about a guy named Johnny Appleseed. He traveled across America and Canada with a sack of apple seeds, making apple trees for generations to come. He seemed like a mythical character, wearing a cooking pot for a hat, and telling people about Jesus as he went from place to place. By all accounts, he was an extremely generous and kind person. But Johnny Appleseed was a real man named John Chapin, and he's buried at Fort Wayne, Indiana. A lot of stories were embellished, but he did spread apple trees all over the place. Especially the variety for hard cider, making many pioneers much happier than they were before. Today, this legendary man rests at Fort Wayne in a very humble grave. Due to one man, there are thousands of apple trees that weren't there before. Sometimes, it just takes one person and a vision. Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis is 555 acres. It's the largest cemetery in Indiana and the third largest non-government cemetery in America. It certainly has its share of famous people. From James Whitcomb Riley, that wrote the poem Little Orphan Annie, Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd President of the United States. His grandfather was none other than William Henry Harrison, the 9th President of the United States. And here's a fun fact, both are related to Rick Harrison, star of the reality show Pawn Stars. There's Richard Gatling, inventor of the Gatling gun, considered the first successful machine gun. But perhaps the most famous is public enemy number 1, John Dillinger. He was a notorious bank robber in the 1930s. In a time when people didn't trust banks, he became a folk hero. After he was killed by the FBI, he was so popular that hundreds paid to view his dead body. Each time I've dropped by, people have left a memento. From a pack of his favorite cigarettes, to even a .45 caliber bullet. The biggest problem is vandalism, as many chip off pieces as a souvenir. The stone has been replaced several times. It's not the original. In the past, people have tried to steal his body. He's now under several tons of concrete. My childhood hero is James Baskett, born in Indianapolis. He worked on 11 Hollywood films, including voice acting in Walt Disney's Dumbo. Most famously, he was Uncle Remus in Song of the South. When I was a kid, my parents bought the soundtrack, which I played over and over. My favorite track was Zippity Doo-Dah. And when I had my own kids, I would sing that song to them all the time. When I found his grave one fall, I cleared the leaves above his memorial. I paused for a few moments to thank him for his music and many memories. Whether he could hear me or not. South of Indianapolis, at Martinsville, is the final resting place of singer Bobby Helms. He scored #1 hits with the songs Fraulein and My Special Angel, but he's best remembered for a Christmas song that you hear every single year, Jingle Bell Rock. Ironically, at first he didn't want to record it, but after years of royalty checks, he said he was glad he did. A longtime resident of Martinsville, his grave sits here, humble as the man he was. At Shelbyville, Indiana, rests another legend, Sandy Allen. She was recognized as the tallest woman in the world by the Guinness Book of World Records. At 7 feet 7 inches tall, she was always the outsider, recognizing an opportunity to help other people that didn't fit in. She became a motivational speaker. By all accounts, she was a very sweet lady, a gentle giant. Despite being so tall, her monument isn't very big. It's actually pretty small. There is no one buried around her, making a powerful statement about loneliness. Whatever obstacle you've had in life, hers was bigger. Also at Shelbyville is actor James Hubert Pierce, born at Freedom, Indiana. He was an actor from 1932 to 1958 and was the 4th person to play Tarzan on the big screen. And here's a fun fact. He married Joanne Burroughs, the daughter of the man that wrote Tarzan itself. Famous author Edgar Rice Burroughs. During the radio version of Tarzan, Joanne played Jane, and James the leading role. On his tombstone, it says Tarzan. And on hers, you guessed it, Jane. In Bloomington, Indiana, is the grave of an incredible songwriter, Hoagy Carmichael. You may not know his name, but you absolutely know his songs. Georgia on My Mind, it's been covered countless times, including versions by Ray Charles and Willie Nelson. Stardust, and many other classics, now referred to as standards. But if you've ever taken piano lessons, you absolutely know Heart and Soul. And you can thank Hoagy Carmichael. Born in Bloomington, buried in Bloomington, with songs that still play every day. Somewhere across the globe. Our next Hollywood star was a multi-talented actor, writer, director, acting coach, musician, and even a college professor. Born in Kentucky, he grew up at Corydon, Indiana. James Best had a prolific Hollywood career, starring in both movies and TV. In this photo, he's playing guitar with Andy Griffith. But he is most remembered as Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane on the Dukes of Hazzard TV series. He played the character so well that it's hard to believe he was also a college professor. You can drive by his boyhood home in Corydon and snap a picture. It is clearly marked. And the next door neighbors clearly have a sense of humor. Even though he became a Hollywood star, he never forgot his roots in Indiana. From time to time, he would come home to visit, where everyone knew him as simply Jimmy. He was buried at Corydon at Cedar Hill Cemetery, a few blocks from where he grew up. James Best is buried next to his parents. He'll always be a hometown hero, a local boy that made it. There's a certain fascination with the graves of famous people. For all they did in this life, this is where they ended up. After all, no one gets out alive. But they also give us an opportunity to somehow connect to the past, a physical stone that you can touch. For the people that inspired me, I always feel compelled to say thanks. Still standing and still breathing, I ask myself, am I content with what I've done so far? I think about the things I still want to accomplish, the way I want to be remembered. Believe me, there's a lot I want to change in the time I have left. And if I wake up tomorrow, I'll keep working on it.